6 months after the rescue at Kepler Station, Marcus stood in the command center of New Fenris, watching as construction drones worked to expand the underground facility that had become the heart of the largest multi-species resistance movement in galactic history. What had begun as a desperate gamble to find refuge in a bombed-out system had become something neither he nor the Laponians had dared to imagine. Final tallies from the intelligence network. Fenris reported his massive frame now bearing the insignia of Fleet Marshal of the Fenris Alliance. 437 successful liberation operations across 12 sectors. Over 50,000 freed slaves, including representatives from 83 different species. Marcus studied the holographic display showing their growing territory. Red zones marked hegemony strongholds, but those were increasingly surrounded by blue areas where Alliance forces had established footholds. And hegemony response? Fragmenting, Vera said, entering the command center with a satisfied expression. Our latest intelligence suggests internal conflicts between military hardliners who want to commit everything to crushing us, and political factions who fear the economic impact of losing their slave labor force. The transformation of the Fenris sector had been nothing short of miraculous. What the hegemony had left as a radioactive wasteland had hidden extensive underground cities that Laponian engineers had built as emergency shelters. With human technological expertise and resources from dozens of grateful species, those shelters have been expanded into a massive military and industrial complex. But the real key to their success had been something Marcus had learned from studying human military history. The most effective resistance movements weren't just about military victories. They were about providing hope and demonstrating that another way of life was possible. Status report on the civilian integration programs? He asked. Beyond our most optimistic projections, replied Dr. Sarah Chun, a former human prisoner who had become their chief administrator for refugee affairs. The agricultural domes are producing surplus food, the educational centers have waiting lists, and our industrial facilities are operating at 120% capacity. Marcus nodded with satisfaction. Freed slaves weren't just being given shelter and protection. They were being given purpose, education, and the tools to build new lives. Former Zephyrian agricultural specialists were teaching advanced farming techniques. Kelvin scientists were developing new technologies. Human engineers were training teams of mixed species in starship construction and repair. The psychological impact on the hegemony can't be overstated, added Professor Keth Moore, a Thraxian sociologist who had escaped for a research facility. For centuries, they've maintained control through the belief that resistance was futile. We're proving that's a lie. A soft chime announced an incoming priority transmission. The main display shifted to show Admiral Rebecca Torres, Marcus's former commanding officer and now the unofficial liaison between the Fenris Alliance and human military intelligence. Marcus, Torres began without preamble, I'm transmitting classified intelligence that changes everything. The hegemony is mobilizing for Operation Cleansing Fire, a massive military campaign designed to eliminate your alliance once and for all. The command center fell silent as tactical data flooded their systems. Fleet movements, supply convoys, troop buildups. The scope was staggering. Nearly 60% of the hegemony's total military capacity was being redirected toward the Fenris sector. Timeline? Vera asked, her voice calm despite the magnitude of the threat. 6 weeks, Torres replied. Maybe 8 if they have logistics problems. Marcus, we're talking about over 3,000 heavy warships, plus support vessels and ground forces. Even with everything you've built, the math doesn't work. Fenris studied the projected enemy order of battle with the analytical mind of a warrior who had survived 4 centuries of conflict. They're betting everything on one decisive campaign. If they can break us here, the resistance movement dies with us. And if they can't? Marcus asked. Then, they've committed so many resources to this operation that their control over other sectors will be severely weakened, Vera observed. Win or lose, this battle will determine the future of the galaxy. Marcus felt the familiar weight of impossible decisions settling on his shoulders. 6 months ago, he had been a single soldier following orders. Now, he was helping to lead a movement that represented hope for billions of enslaved beings across known space. The responsibility was overwhelming. "We can't match them ship for ship," he said finally. "But we don't have to. This isn't about winning a conventional battle. It's about proving that the hegemony can be beaten." Over the next month, the Fenris Alliance prepared for the greatest military challenge in their history. Every available ship was recalled and refitted. Defensive positions were established throughout the asteroid fields that surrounded the former Laponian homeworld. Most importantly, Marcus coordinated with resistance cells throughout hegemony space to launch simultaneous uprisings that would force the enemy to fight on multiple fronts. The key to their strategy was mobility and coordination. Hegemony tactics relied on overwhelming firepower concentrated at a single point. Alliance forces would use hit and run attacks, forcing the enemy to spread their superior numbers across multiple engagements while never giving them the chance to bring their full strength to bear. "It's not about destroying their fleet," Marcus explained during the final strategy briefing. "It's about making this campaign so costly that they can't afford to continue it." When the hegemony fleet finally arrived in the Fenris sector, it was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Over 3,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire worlds. At the center of the fleet, a massive dreadnought served as the command ship for Supreme Admiral Korath himself, the highest-ranking hegemony military officer. "This is Supreme Admiral Korath to the terrorist forces occupying the Fenris sector," came the transmission on all frequencies. "You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Any forces that resist will be destroyed without mercy." Marcus, coordinating the defense from the bridge of their captured battlecruiser, opened a reply channel. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Fenris Alliance. We reject your demand for surrender. This system is under the protection of free peoples who will not bow to tyranny." "Kane," Korath's voice carried obvious surprise. "A human leading alien terrorists. Your species will answer for this betrayal of galactic order." "The only thing my species will answer for is standing up to bullies," Marcus replied. "Come and try to take our world." The battle that followed would be remembered as the turning point in the Galactic Freedom Wars. Alliance forces struck from concealed positions throughout the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover while larger hegemony ships struggled to maneuver in the confined space. Laponian pack tactics, refined by months of combat experience, allowed smaller Alliance ships to coordinate attacks that overwhelmed enemy defenses through sheer precision and timing. But the real genius was in the broader strategy. As the hegemony fleet committed more and more ships to the Fenris system, resistance cells throughout their territory launched coordinated uprisings. Slave camps were liberated. Supply convoys were attacked. Government facilities were sabotaged. The hegemony found themselves fighting a war on dozens of fronts simultaneously. "Admiral," Vera reported from her command ship, "intelligence reports that hegemony forces are withdrawing from the Keldon and Thraxian sectors to reinforce operations here. Local resistance movements are seizing control of multiple systems." Marcus smiled grimly as he watched another wave of hegemony cruisers fall to coordinated Alliance fire. They're pulling their forces from everywhere else to win here. Win or lose, they've already lost the war. The climax came when Fenris himself, leading a strike force of Laponian warriors and captured hegemony ships, penetrated the enemy formation and launched a boarding action against Korath's command dreadnought. The ancient pack leader, wielding weapons designed by human engineers and fighting alongside warriors from a dozen different species, carved through enemy defenses like a force of nature. "This is for 4 centuries of slavery," Fenris declared as he cornered Korath on the dreadnought's bridge. "This is for every world you've burned and every life you've destroyed." The surrender of the hegemony command ship sent shockwaves through their fleet. Without central coordination, their formations began to collapse as individual captains either retreated or attempted to negotiate separate surrenders. Within hours, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was in